This happened a couple months ago. My name is Rachel. My best friend's name was Margot. She had arranged a blind date for me because she thought I was lonely. I was hesitant at first, but I gave it a shot anyway. She told me the address of the bar where I could meet my date. I got dressed, drove to the location, and saw that it was in the middle of nowhere. This raised a bunch of red flags, but I thought I was being too anxious, so I went in. The time was 7:30. It was a cute bar, nothing really special. I saw a man walking in. He was good looking. He had dark hair and brown eyes. He walked towards me and asked me if I was Margot's friend. I said yes. Yes, I am. You must be my date. Then I introduced myself, and he did too. His name was Adam. We ordered drinks and we had a great time. I excused myself to go to the restroom. I remembered thinking that this wasn't too bad at all. I got back and I noticed that his behavior changed. I asked him if something was wrong, and he said no and asked me if I wanted another drink. I said yes, thank you. I finished my drink, but before I started another one, I noticed that I started to feel a little more drunk than I should be. He asked me if I was okay, and I said I needed some fresh air. He walked with me. He said it was getting late, and we both had a couple of drinks, which meant that we weren't able to drive. I suggested calling an Uber, and he agreed. I called out, but my connection was terrible. He said he would try, but he couldn't reach them either. He suggested going to a motel that was close to the bar, and I said, only if we could have 2 separate rooms. He said that was fine, no problem. We got to the motel, walked to the front desk and asked if anything was available. Only one room was. I sighed and said, okay. We took the room. It wasn't nice looking either, but it was okay for the night. When we were in the room, he said he was going to take a shower. I got anxious. I had very bad anxiety, and I was paranoid. My gut told me to check his phone, so I did. I saw multiple texts between him and I think his friend. He told his friend the location of the bar and the motel, which made me suspicious. I saw the message from the friend saying, not even a minute later, I'll be there shortly, keep her warm for me. I felt sick to my stomach. He didn't even call an Uber, he pretended. I quietly sneaked out from my room. I ran to the front desk, asking to use the phone. I called Margot. It was 1:30 a.m. She picked up and asked me how it was going. I told her, come pick me up now, and she said, alright, I'm coming. I told the guy at the front desk what had happened. He simply told me that maybe it's not what it seems like, just typical man behavior, he said. I told him I'm staying here till my friend gets here. I checked my phone and saw that my location was turned off, and airplane mode was activated. This explains why I couldn't call. At that moment, everything fell into place. When I got back from the restroom, his strange behavior, he did that. I'm pretty sure he put something in my drink as well, because I would have noticed that my phone was being messed with. I looked at the closed door and heard a car coming. It wasn't my friend, it was another guy. He got out of the car and walked into the room that I literally just ran out of. Adam opened the door, and that exact moment, I saw my best friend's car approaching. I sprinted out. I heard yelling behind me. I jumped in the car and explained everything to Margot, and she cried with me. She apologized. She had no idea. I'm lucky I got away. I don't even want to think about what might have happened if I didn't listen to my gut. This story happened to my dad, not me, but it's simply too creepy not to share. My dad went with a group on a trip to do some medical work in a less privileged town. For a few nights on the trip, they stayed in a motel. My dad was sharing a room with another man from the group, separate beds. One night, he was awoken by his roommate, who had his light on. He looked terrified, trembling, and he was also praying. My dad asked him what was wrong, but he wouldn't say anything about it. My dad was obviously concerned, but since he couldn't do anything about it, he just went back to bed. The next night, in the middle of the night, my dad got up to pee. He walked to the bathroom to relieve himself, and that's when he caught a very strong scent, a body odor. Most of the locals in the area they stayed in rarely wore deodorant, so that smell was very apparent. This is when he realized that he and his roommate may not be alone. He turned around to see a local woman shaking violently. Her eyes rolled up, locked at the ceiling. My dad panicked. He thought, no one should be able to get into this room. He was wondering, where did she come from? He was confused. He looked around the bathroom and, as he looked back, the woman was gone, almost as if she was never there. He was shaken. He went back to bed thinking maybe he was dreaming or seeing things. He laid back down on his side and the adrenaline was starting to wear off. He begins to doze off again. Suddenly, the smell returns. He slowly rolls over and looks at his left. There, in the bedside behind him, is the woman laying flat on her back, her eyes once again glued to the ceiling. Again, he panicked. He broke his line of sight, and again, she was gone. At this point, my dad was thinking that he wouldn't be able to get back to sleep. The woman never returned again. He asked his roommate the next morning if he had encountered the same thing the night before, which is why he was so shaken, super creepy, and definitely weird that happened to the both of them. They couldn't explain it. We were traveling with another couple. They had a tight budget, and we needed to find a place to stay last minute in Las Vegas. We had been looking forward to a nice hotel with a pool to kick back and chill out, but they couldn't afford it. So, we found a super cheap motel with a pool. We were trying to be good, flexible travelers, so we agreed to compromise. As we were driving to the place, I tried to ignore the increasing amount of poverty, people who were in drugs on the streets. They looked lost. We pulled into the motel lot, and I said nothing. My husband and I looked at each other. It looked like a seedy apartment complex. As we walked into the building, I was overcome by the smell. It was sweet, and at the same time horrible beyond belief. There was a layer of perfume on top. My body wouldn't let me breathe in the smell, so I had to cover my mouth with a shirt in order to breathe. I was on the tail end of a flu, so I'd been nauseous for a few days, and I figured I was just being sensitive. We hurried to see the pool, and it had a big sign saying, "Under renovation." I covered my mouth and we went back into the building. We checked out our room. It was clean, and the smell didn't permeate into it, so we agreed to stay. That next morning, I woke up having the worst dreams of my life. People getting shot, hurt, and beaten up. Constant drama and horror in my head all night. My husband seemed interested in what I had dreamt, and I didn't want to get into it, so I just said people were getting hurt. When we got home in a couple of days, I brought up the smell in the hallway. It wasn't until then that he told me that the odor was from a badly decayed body, a human body. What was the reason he didn't tell me? I was upset. My husband was a paramedic and he was used to the worst smells known to humanity.